All right. Welcome to AmeriCanaries Podcast number 5. Once again, we have special guest David Lamb, who's living in Canada but is a Norwegian. Did I say that right? Norwegian?
Norvikian, I think. But yeah,
Norvikian.
Norvikian.
unless I'm
Norwegian.
Norwegian and I'm going to get the gig, I don't know. Maybe.
True. Yeah, we'll have Alex Teddy coming on the phone. And we also have, so I'm Ken Katz, the host, and we have the founder of AmeriCanaries. AmeriCanaries, I got to say it the right way. Jeff got mad at me. AmeriCanaries, Mark Foster. So, lots happened on Saturday, didn't it, folks?
Sure
Saw the first win of the season, and I, for one, was very nervous and tense throughout the whole. I'm like, come on, are they gonna win? Are they gonna hold on? Are they gonna win? This looks really good. I mean, Brentford doesn't look great. Are we finally gonna get something, out of this? And then they kept playing well and showing some of the stuff, that I'd been talking about and urging them to do with the players, putting different players out there in different roles and different formation. I'm like, finally, it certainly isn't. They didn't go, oh, Ken said this on Fan Zone. This is what I have to do. No. And like, okay, that's great. And then all of a sudden, I log in after about an hour and I see Mark posting, Farke just got sacked. I'm like, what? Immediately we went to the Twitter. And when I go to Twitter, I need at least 2 legit sources of news of people that I follow in different areas to verify. One doesn't cut it. I need 2 people that I know are verified. And there was more than 2. And then they put out the press release. I was like, whoa, wow. So I just thought it was incredibly surprising because it looked like they, other than the Chelsea match where they got hammered, they looked like they were starting to figure it out. They were playing better. They were gelling a little bit. They were more offensive. They look more like a team that could stay in the Premier League as opposed to just an embarrassment. And then all of a sudden you see he got sacked. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? So everyone who was following this in the media and on Twitter immediately had to turn around from, wow, this is great. We finally got a win. Let's talk about what happened. Like, oh no. So I saw like Michael Bailey, who's excellent, was like in London until late at night. And he had like a video where he wasn't sure how he was going to get back to Norwich. He didn't know. Well, I think I can catch a train, and I think the buses are still running. It looked like he had been there for a very, very long time. So it was kind of interesting. So hand it over to you guys. What do you think about everything that happened? You think it was the sacking was justified? Who do we think amongst the names being mentioned might get the job? Who would you want to see get the job? And then what do we think about how they did? I mean, I obviously was, I thought it was a very good performance. It's their best. I thought it was their best performance since they stunned Man City, honestly.
Well, that's not saying a lot considering how the rest of the season went after Man City. But,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bittersweet for me because there's a part of me that, every week with every ensuing loss, it's like, is this going to be it? Is this going to be it? Is this going to be it? Is it going to be Sunday? Is it going to be Monday? And then they didn't wait. Reading Michael Bailey's stuff, he talked about this really came down Thursday with Stuart Weber making the decision and going to the board. And then I guess because I missed it just watching the game, the looks of horror, I guess, from Delia and Michael when they were up 2-0. And it's like, oh, we're going to do this, but are we going to win and then do this? So it's unfortunate that, maybe that happened. But, I take a very middle of the road stance on this. And to me, it's only going to be the right decision based on who gets brought in. And if it's someone that can keep us up, great. If we're swapping out like for like, somebody out of left field, well, we already had somebody out of left field that we know can get us back if we go down.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if we get somebody like that and it doesn't work out? It's just not the right fit for us. We're going to spend another 3 years trying to figure all that out again before we get back up. I don't have an answer to that, and we'll see what happens. Vis-a-vis Knutson and whoever else might be on that radar. But there's a part of me. I saw a post, and I'd been thinking of this before I saw the post. But take kind of a Seussian approach to it. Don't be sad that he's gone. Smile that he happened, and just say thank you. Love you, buddy. Maybe he reaches a point where he can come back, and I don't see him back in any shape or form with the club, perhaps, but at least maybe visits from here. I don't know. It's a different animal over there with how that works versus, say, a college coach in football who's been fired for whatever reason and then kind of still stays a legend in the town and can get all the free drinks he wants, Barry Switzer. But anyway, that's just kind of where I'm at with it. I'm in that wait and see mode. Let's see what happens. And hopefully it's a good call, but it was a bit ruthless. It was very, to me, the club has always waited too long to pull the trigger. I mean, They waited until there was only 5 games left when they sacked Houghton. And they probably could have done it 6 to 8 weeks earlier.
Is that when they had Neil Adams finish out the string?
Yeah. And then he went 0-1-4. And I think the one was just a Chelsea draw at the end when we were already relegated, and we needed so much help, and we just played not to lose, and he got us 1 point, and that was it.
I didn't remember that. I thought he lost everything.
No, he did draw 1 game, and I think it was a Chelsea game. I could be wrong on that, but
yeah, I got the sense when he came in, it's like, okay, he knows the club. Let's put him in charge, and we'll see what happens. But it was okay. We need someone that can run a team, and that's it. I don't think they had any hope that was going to solve anything.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
David.
We won the game, and because we won the game, I think it made it feel all the more raw. There was a couple of moments in that, particularly in the second half, I think, where we were in danger of letting it all slip away again. There was a couple of moments there where we were starting to there was some signs of the rust for the previous couple of weeks and the lack of confidence. And who knows? I'm so glad we hung on because I thought it was so important for us to be able to do that. And I think we were all thinking, okay, now he has the chance to turn it around. And I think that question that is always, now we'll never know, is whether he would have done or not. But I think as you both said, this was something that was, let's be frank about this. When he was giving the interview a week or so or more ago, this was probably in the works. I can't imagine that it wasn't. I mean, he's the type of guy. He was the Paddy Davitt, a couple of the other people. He's a planner, I think, and I think that he realized that they needed to do something different. And what I mean by that is not necessarily just do something different on the pitch. I think there was a concern that we would just simply repeat the cycle and we would go down,
right,
possibly go back up again, refresh the personnel that we've got, refresh the squad, come back up again, and the cycle repeats. And I think if you're really looking to do something different, I think, we heard this a little bit in some of the comments that was afterwards, that maybe what we need now is a coach that actually has a bit more top tier level, shall we say, that could possibly press us on and get more out of this team. And so I think it feels to me that's what led to it. Mark's right, though. Sometimes we do make a bit of a mess of how we actually let these bombs drop. I mean, I think it's interesting about him, of course, he's never sacked anybody at a high level, right? He may have sacked staff around him and that type of thing, but he didn't sack Wagner. and he hasn't really had. So it was. I think he probably ruminated long and hard on this one, and there was a lot of conversation about why is it so difficult to sack and why is it so difficult to change a head coach. Isn't that the reason we've got this model in the first place? We've gone to the continental model, you would call it, where you actually have a coach, and therefore a coach is at least debatably more expendable than some alpha manager, the like of which is the normal tradition for English football. So, but yeah, I mean, away dressing room after the game, that's pretty harsh. I mean, there's no pretty ruthless. But I have to say, I think it was the right call. But of course, that will only be as good as Mark points out as the person you bring in next and who's able to turn it around. Otherwise, then we're in the championship with someone who doesn't know the championship and who knows where that might go. So I think it's a gamble, but I probably, on balance, it's a gamble we have to take. I think he is going to leave. I think he has managed to leave. And someone was saying this the other day as well. Of all the managers we liked, he's probably the only one that we have sacked. Well, Lambert obviously left. Mike Walker left. To go to Everton that time. So I think it's going to be. I think he actually will be one of these people that can come back. I think he will. He did enough, I think, to sort of put himself into the pantheon of our decent managers. And I think there's a lot of there's still clearly a lot of love out there for him. So I think it'll be interesting. But I think he will he will be able to come back, and it will all be good for him. But interesting to see what happens next, and interesting to see if we can somehow continue this form. But anyway, we'll see.
True. His statement was really nice. It was basically, hey, it's been an honor and a privilege, and it wasn't anything that was mean-spirited. It was, all right, they got me, this has been great. I want to let everyone know how much I enjoyed it, how much I really, treasured. I don't have the exact words in front of me. I'm like, okay, that's sort of what you expect from him. He seemed like, the Yiddish word is a mensch, seemed like a real gentleman, understood how to do things, seemed like a real upright guy that wasn't throwing anybody under the bus for the most part, although there was some of that going on with some guys being buried and not seeing the light of day. But on the face of it, he seemed like, a very nice guy. There's been a lot of videos and photographs of him where he interacted with fans and other people and was very, open and giving with his time, which is great. So it's like the timing. I think let's say if it was Sunday, yesterday, and like give everyone the opportunity. Oh, this is great. We have a win finally, something positive, and all of a sudden, whoa. It was.
Yeah, but the problem with waiting until Sunday is we had guys who were getting ready to go on international duty.
Right.
And so he needed to be able to, and he did, get everybody back, to Colney, have one last meeting and chat and goodbye with everybody. And, and, at that point, that's the final goodbye. And, I can appreciate the timing from that point of, why, if you're going to do it, regardless of what happened, for 90 minutes in Brentford, if you're going to do it, sometimes that clean cut is the best, because if you drag it out, now you've got all these unfinished, all these things that need resolved, between him and players and whatnot, those final goodbyes. And how do you do that if it was on Sunday or Monday? I don't think you can.
Good point. Yeah, because he did get a chance. Now, the timing's interesting because the international break, hopefully they have somebody who's agreed to the job by Wednesday, Thursday at the latest.
Well, they're saying into this week, aren't they? I think the timing was all about that. I think there's two things. I think they were already in conversations with somebody, or at least they were putting out the feelers, the legal feelers, shall we say, like prior to that period. And I think it was also the international break. Like they knew all the players were going to be off. Apparently, all the players are off until this Friday anyway. So you've then got to say, okay, right. So I want to be able to see them before that happens. We know we're not necessarily going to be doing any major training between now and then. So I think that's all. I think that's all part of it, and I think it's highly likely that they'll have somebody in by this Friday, probably Thursday. And I think you see the odds jump backwards and forwards, and I mean the Frank Lampard, I think, and all that type of stuff, I think is just simply media speculation. But then when Knudsen went to 2-5, I think it was today early on.
I saw that stuff, the odds. I was like, there's 16 people on this list.
Yeah, that's just. I mean, some of them are. I mean, the thing that's extraordinary about that, I actually don't understand why people waste their time saying, it's going to be Big Sam, it's going to be Roy Hodgson. It's as if Roy Hodgson is going to sit under Stuart Webber. I mean, the whole premise of this is that it's going to be a coach. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get some, big. First of all, I mean, Allardyce would just be. I couldn't even begin to describe how awful that would be. But the very idea that anybody like that is going, well, Steve Bruce isn't going to sit under Stuart Webber. So it's you really are looking at people who are either used to that model or sufficiently junior such that they would tolerate it, and that's it. So. That I think limits you to a huge number of names before you even get to start contemplating. Oh yeah, Steven Gerrard.
That's not happening yet.
It's not going to happen.
That's not happening. I mean,
no.
One of the things is
I didn't understand.
They're talking about Lampard. I'm like, all right. He's a big name. It's a sexy name. He knows how to win the Premier League. He's managed, and both didn't necessarily do well with Chelsea. In my mind, wouldn't Norwich be a step down from what he wants as a job?
It would be, in my view, it wouldn't be a step down for him, but he would certainly think of it as a step down. There's a very telling clip. If you look at, there's a clip of that man when he's, and it's when Chelsea are playing Liverpool, and he has a row with Jurgen Klopp on the touchline. Have you seen that one?
No.
And they have just a faint bit of a mic on it, and he turns to Klopp, and Klopp is, I think Klopp has got, I think it's still Waters. I think Klopp has got a pretty vicious edge to him where he wants to have it, but there was some dispute about them on the touchline, and he swore at him. He said something to the effect of, "Why don't you back up? At least I've won a Champions League, as a player, as more than you'll ever do." The problem with Frank Lampard, as much as he may have something to offer, it would always be about Frank Lampard, and I can't. And he would see himself coming to being a big fish in a small pond, and that's not the Norwich way. Whatever you want to say, it just isn't.
Right.
And I don't think people like Frank Lampard would really understand the ethos of that. I just don't. And so I mean, obviously, if he turns around and that's who they picked, we'll get behind him. Of course, we all would do it. As we normally would. Is he the right one for the club? Not on your life.
I've seen some of that same thought that it'd be, wouldn't be Norwich City, it'd be Frank Lampard's Norwich City.
Yeah, there's a big
like,
Frank Lampard's derby. It was this, and it was that. And I mean that's always like a press thing, but I actually think for someone to me, I would say the very idea that Frank Lampard would sit and listen to Stuart Webber and say, yeah, no, you're right, these are the players we'll bring in. I don't see it, and so I think but others you can see, but him I can.
Yeah. Okay. Mark, can you turn down whatever's happening in the background?
Hang on, can you drop that down just a hair?
It's a shame. I thought you were going to. Could you take about 20% off? Is what I was hoping you'd say.
Oh, Letterkenny, yeah. Gotta let that marinate. So,
I know that's a show I have not seen. I've seen a lot of shows.
I love Letterkenny.
I've not.
I love
that's
Letterkenny.
for another discussion. I'm now at the point where I'm like, God, I think I've watched everything that I think is good that I want to watch.
No, there's 8 seasons of Letterkenny waiting for you, Ken.
Yeah.
Or you can be mine.
I did what you did.
Or you can be. There's some sort of a phenomenon with, God, I'll say, Jewish women above a certain age watching a very long and involved Turkish series that has like 200 episodes of something. There's some sort of weird thing going on.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's weird.
Like some sort of, it's all in Turkish. Don't ask.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I gotta watch Heimat again. It's been too long since I've watched Heimat. I'll have to watch that all over again just for the hell of it, which kind of feels that way. So anyway,
Right.
but there's a whole other conversation.
David and Mark, of the names being bandied about, who do you like?
I'm sitting here. I'm looking at the odds right now. And oh, by the way, Hux is down to 100-1 on Paddy Power.
Oh,
Well, especially because he said no.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he came out and said no.
I mean, and there's a few familiar names of that always get bandied about whenever. From the last few times it's opened up. I mean, there's Monk and Neil Adams is there, Houghton is there, Neil Lennon is there. Lambert and Alex Neil are both up at like 33-1 on one of these, and Gary Monk. That's a name I've always seen attached. Yeah. Mick McCarthy's actually on here at 28-1.
That's funny.
For the press conferences, it will be good.
That's funny.
Absolutely. And then you start getting into the real names. I mean, but oh my God, there must be 30 names on this thing. I'm having to scroll.
What I saw Saturday had 16 names.
Yeah. Oh, I've got more than that on here. This is like an aggregate site. It's got 3 different betting companies listings on it.
It was just someone posted.
Yeah, I don't know which ones you're looking at the
someone
moment.
Posted Paddy Power, which sounds like the name of a kid I went to gym class with or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got Lampard at 4-5, Knudsen at 5-2, Dean Smith at 11-4, and Hodgson at 12-1, along with Russell Martin at 12-1.
Yeah.
Russell Martin's interesting. I don't think he's ready yet.
He's not ready.
I've said before. Oh, Russell Martin, future Norwich manager.
Yeah, and I think I'd be cool with that, but I'd rather it be a season too late than a season too early for him.
And it would, it kind of, it would almost sort of go against the reason for sacking Farke, right? The whole point is you're looking for someone who's ready to do this. I mean, I'm taking a look at this, and I mean, I'm looking at the Betfair ones at the moment. Other gambling organizations are available, but you got. I mean, I think that it's got to be. I mean, I think they got to be. It would strike me that they're probably talking a Lampard, or they got because it's out there and it's out there hard. But it looks to me, if I'm looking at all of these, I mean, you got Hodgson in there. I just don't think that's happening. Russell Martin, no way it's happening. No. Steve Bruce, no way it's happening. Mark Robbins, maybe, but again, it doesn't really fit the brief. Scott Parker, maybe, not quite the brief. No way John Terry, character's not right. Javi Garcia, yeah, possibly. Lucien Favre would be great, but he's not going to do it, again, for the same reason. Gerard, nice, but no way. Nuno Espirito Santo, possibly. Nathan Jones, no. Michael, for me, it's Knudsen or it's no one, and it's a stupid thing to say, but it just when you think about what he's done, where he's coached, his age, his proximity to his being used to the model, and yet when you compare his experience with Farke's experience before he came into the gig, which was Borussia Thai. It's off the peg. It's a real Weber appointment, and that's what I think. And I would be very, very surprised if it was anybody else at this point. Very surprised.
Now, when they played Roma, was that in the Champions League?
Europa League.
Europa League.
League. So it's UEFA Cup that was, and now there's two divisions. There's 2 divisions now of the Europa League, but it was Europa League. Yeah, so UEFA
the real Europa League, not the one that Spurs are in. The Spurs
not the it's funny. I mean, they did it to reduce it to 2 tournaments, right? They got rid of the Cup, Winners' Cup, and all the rest of it. Now there's 2 Europa Leagues. So anyway, it's sublime to the ridiculous. But there we go. No, I think that's as I say. I think that's who it is. When I'm looking at these, I don't have 30 names like Mark. I got one that's got 14 on it, but
I just have one at 16.
Yeah, and I could probably parse it down to maybe 20 that actually for the 3 lists that I've got here. Not all of them have, like Javi Garcia is only listed on 1, Masson's only on 1, McCarthy's only listed on 1. But you get down to who's actually listed on all 3, and there's, some of them like Houghton's listed on all 3, but that's just because there's dumb money out there taking a flyer, and that's
not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. And Alex Nielsen going to happen.
Right. No, I mean, I think they almost got to do this to kind of fluff the lists up. But I'm also trying to think about look at who we've got, right? Who we brought in over the course of the summer, who they're looking to try and get the best out of. These are not the guys that are going to do that. They're going to take one look at that team, and they're going to say some things that some of the people that they're talking about, they're going to say some things that make sense. Like, we probably do need a bit more steel. We probably do need a bit more creativity. But I am looking at the people that we have, Elise Mellows, Brandon Williams, these types of folks, and also Charles and Rashidska. It's going to be someone like Knudsen, I think. Anyway, we shall see. We shall see.
At least Rashid is showing something now. Didn't he play the whole match? I mean, he was pretty darn good.
Did Sargent sub out for him?
Sargent came in for somebody right at the end. I don't remember who he came in for.
Yeah, see, now I'm gonna have to go look it up.
Yeah, I don't remember who he came in for. But he also, in his last match, Farke also finally subbed early than normal. I don't know how many he's had the first sub for, but not that many.
Well, that was always his problem, right? I mean, he had the stubbornness and the single-mindedness that was probably his asset in terms of the way he managed the team. I heard Henry Winter, who I can't bear anyway, talking about his naivety. Was the one thing he wasn't was that. Nor was he slow at developing talent, but I think he was stubborn. And I think, so late substitutions. Right. I'm not going to play you because you missed a penalty. I'm not going to play you because you said this to me. And then was very, very slow to change. And I think, he realized how important it was that they held onto that game, which is why I think they went to 3 at the end. Because they went to 3 thinking, we'll go to 3 at the back in the end there because there's no way we're losing this. But I think that was ultimately what probably did for him in the end. So, it's going to be interesting to see, who we get and whether,
You think some of his refusing to make changes early was like, I believe in these players. I really want them. I think they can do it. Give them another 5-10 minutes or something.
I wonder how much of that wasn't that he could get away with it in the championship.
Of course,
just because we were a level above everybody else the last 2 times, and you can get away with that. Those guys will come through in the stretch, even when they're tired after 85 minutes. They'll come through. There's no reason to swap them out. Let them finish out their 90 and go from there. That doesn't work here. And I look at the swaps that he made. Dal out for Gianoulis at 74, Pookie out for Sargent at 78. And Rashika for Ida at 90+5 were the changes.
Oh, the Ida one was weird. That was almost put him in to defend a corner.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it is, though. It's big guy to hold the ball up, and that's fine. Right. Like, you're going to do that. You're not looking to score. You have the big guy. You have the big guy up front to hold the ball up. That's a pretty Grant Holt type tactic right there, and I think that's fine. I was actually more interested. I was more interested in the fact they went to 3. At the back, but again, I think that was to defend it. I think Mark's right. I think we were so far ahead of the game last season that there was a multitude of sins was covered by some of the fact that we were so far ahead in some games. Not just by the goals we scored, like actually as far ahead, but also just the way we played, the way we dominated teams. You can't do that here. And I think he was slow to change. And you can remember games last season where Pookie's dead on his feet. He's running backwards and forwards. You think, give this guy 10 minutes, for heaven's sake. And you used to see it every now and again. You used to see it, fairly regularly in the championship. But it's done for him here. So it'll be interesting to see if we've got somebody who's going to be more responsive, who will change it up in a way that's more responsible. It was funny. I was going through some of the squads in the 2011 and 2010, 2011-12 when Lambert was coach, and it was every week it was different. You had the diamond.
That's when I first started
different.
Following Lambert's last year. That's when I started.
Yeah. So that was kind of what I was looking at. I was looking at that. I was also looking at the results in 2005. Because I was looking at the fact, our first win in that season we went up was I think November the 26th or something against Southampton. So everyone was saying that was the first time we won a game in that season. But of course, we got several draws before we got there. So it's just sort of comparing those things. So yeah, I mean, whoever comes in, I think is going to have to, obviously, blinding glimpse of the obvious, is going to have to get the best out of the new signings. They've got to find a way to make that work. I think it's going to be interesting to see whether Jolis comes in and we start to see a bit, really using the pace down the flanks. It was interesting Saturday. We went to kind of, our 4-2-3-1. We actually got some joy down the flanks, as that's what led to the goal. So it was good to see that back, even though we were saying when we drew against Burnley, maybe good to see the three at the back for a little while. Clearly, for Chelsea, that didn't work. So I quite like the fact we got some joy down the flanks. I thought that was important. Would really like to see Jolis come into it. I think Rashica's really getting the measure of it. So that's interesting. Revelation for me was It was actually not Norman. It was actually not Norman for me. I think Norman is doing well, but I think the relief. So people are sort of billing Norman as a genius. I don't think he's that. I think he's a good player, but I think he's in a squad of players that are probably underperforming right now, and it's making him look a little better. So it's interesting. He's the playmaker who's sitting deep. For me, one of the performances was on Bamidele. I thought he did so well, and it's great to be able to see a player like him come in, really benefiting from the international experience he's getting with the Republic of Ireland, and looked positionally pretty good. Made a couple errors, but has come on a long way. So it was really impressive to see him. So I'm excited about the rest of the season. If it's weird to say that, I mean, whether it's excited like about to do a bungee jump excited, or whether it's excited because you think it's going to be fun, I don't know. But I think if we get the right guy in, you never know what might happen here. We've still got a lot of time, so we'll see.
Still a lot of time, and the teams at the bottom just to. Okay, Newcastle bring in Eddie Howe. Okay.
Yeah,
we'll see how that works for him. That's going to be a function of what gets done in January for them. That's what we'll. I mean, that's what we got to wait on with Newcastle. So hopefully they, lose as many points as possible up until that point. I don't know what we might do in January, not to get too far ahead. I know that's going to be largely a function of who ends up running the club. At least on the field. I don't know what money there is out there for us to make any more moves, unless whatever is going on with Cantwell, which is part of this elephant in the room we haven't talked about.
Right.
How much of that relationship, and I don't want to paint anything that may not be there, but I have to wonder how much of this with Farke has to do with what's happened with Cantwell. I don't think one player can, this isn't the NBA where one big name can get a coach fired. And I'm not saying that at all is what happened here, but it's, we've seen where guys go in the doghouse before and it's been kind of quiet and they've not been local boys.
Right. Big difference. Because they did it with Treble and Leitner and was it Dermich?
Dermich, yeah. And he was off with the 23s and
right.
And we knew they were off with the 23s and that's where he's been the last few weeks is training with the 23s because I think
he's actually played in 2 matches. So.
Right.
Has,
right.
I think I think it's bigger than Farke. I do. I do. Who knows what? And don't even want to speculate, but it feels to me that it's bigger than Farke, because it's been so quiet. They've offered the fact he's not playing. He's had to talk about that. It's impossible not to mention it at press conferences. It's impossible. That there's something going on there, and who knows what. I just don't. But I think it'll just be interesting to see whether, and I guess we'll soon find out, right? If the new manager comes in and suddenly it's instant redemption, then maybe then I'm wrong. But I guess it's just going to be it's that I think is only time will tell. But I hope to see him back because, as I say, I think that's what we've been missing, and I don't think we can rely on Norman for that. That's not what we bought him for.
Right.
And what was interesting is that Norman was playing deeper on Saturday than he had in any game previous, and yet was still being able to. And actually was intended to be the person that was providing the creativity.
Right.
So, and the Billy Gilmore thing, great, but I see that ending in January because I think, notwithstanding the fact that he has an agreement, I think it was because Farke knew Tuchel that that happened, and I don't think Gilmore's happy. And I think it's, I think family and so on are going to be a big pull on that. So I think that's going to be tough. So I'd like to see Cantwell back. I mean, it's got to be right. I don't think it's just like we can ping him back in. I think it's got to be right. His head's got to be right. But he's the creativity, I think, that is going to, we, in some ways, particularly against Leeds, we lacked.
Right.
And I'd like to see him in a combination and maybe even Gilmore for what we have, if we have him for a while, but have him in and then actually have Norman do it. Like if Norman can provide that creativity, great, but he's also there to provide the steal. And so I would like to see, I would really want to see Cantwell back. And I think a lot of people do.
Yeah. Gilmore reminds me of some of the guys Spurs put in midfield. Like Harry Winks. Oh, okay, you're creative, but then you're a defensive liability. I think that's part of his issue. He's a smaller guy and a defensive liability.
And he didn't play well. I mean, I think this is the other thing people forget. He wasn't, he didn't. I mean, fair enough, lots of people didn't, and they were tough games to start with. But it wasn't as if he set the world on fire when he played. And I think there was also a lot of expectation on him, quite unfair expectation, because he had 2 or 3 decent games in the Euros. And, let's be frank, a couple of the games in the Euros, the standard isn't going to be up to what it is in the Premier League. And I think it's interesting that Tuchel and others have not said, there, Billy, it'll all be all right. They said, no, you gotta play for your place. Like you can't expect me to take you back. So I think it's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think that if he's not played, I think he'll go back in January, because the view will be, well, if I'm sitting on the bench here, I might as well be sitting on the bench at Chelsea,
right?
Which I think would be a mistake. But nonetheless, I just, when I saw him lining up there, getting all the photographs done with his family, you can see it's pretty close knit. And I think that, it's almost like, quite understandably, they're very protective of him, or at least they give that impression. And I think they're looking for him to be, playing, and for him to be pretty much instant. And I think to be fair to Farke, you'd want to see him. You'd probably want to see him play more games, but I don't necessarily think that he did anything to suggest that he would be knocking people out of the team straight off the bat. We'll see. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, when I was on the fan zone last week, was it Leroy Rossignol? I'm not sure.
Leroy Rossignol. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, he asked. So, what did he do with the? I posted that with recruitment. And I said basically, I forgot Norman, because Norman's clearly, I think he fits. To me, it seemed like they went for one rung below your top players out there. They went for, not your A quality guys, your B quality guys they know they could get in. And it looked like they were going for more potential instead of production. And I referenced the NBA draft, whether you draft for potential or you draft for immediate, production, or are you drafting a guy? Yeah, this guy's good. I think they'll be great in 3 years. Or do you draft a guy is going to be rookie stud's going to light up the league? What do you do? So they're not getting the rookie studs that light up the league. They're getting guys of potential. Norman, great. That was a great move. Getting Buendia when they did, that was fantastic.
Sure.
But getting the guys in and understand, what they're trying to do with the playing fast and playing and getting young players, great. But are we getting the prime, guys? I mean, Brandon Williams, okay. I mean, he's on a loan. I can't see him staying there. They're going to bring him back to Man U. He clearly is he's got a talent, but then again, he was on loan from Man U. This isn't a guy that they picked up from clubs where you have to look on the map to see where they are. There's nothing against them, those clubs, but you're getting guys who are like subprime and hoping that their potential is going to live up because of the money that's there. Now, one thing that's the unspoken thing in the room is the sponsorship deal that got canceled with the was it Asian betting group because of
BKA.
Marketing, because of their marketing.
Yeah, I don't know how much money that really was, and
I thought it was like
4 to
£5
5
million.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
and people keep saying, "Oh, that's why they didn't do that." It's like That's
Yeah.
£5 million, guys.
No.
That's
I mean,
that's
it's
not the
not.
reason.
No,
Yeah.
no. I mean, if you look at the finances, you look at when the books were opened up, I mean, you could see essentially where the profit line lay. I think we bought realistically, and I think people might not want to hear that, but we bought realistically. And someone said, why don't we don't go for top strikers? Because top strikers will cost you 80, 90 million
Right.
dollars. We can't
Right.
afford top strikers. And this is the market that we're in. I don't think we bought essentially. We got players on loan that, we do well and we stay up. Matthias Norman's going to cost us thick end of 11, 12, 14, 15 million. We had Roy Keane on the weekend talking about 40 million being a drop in the ocean. That's the world these guys live in. That's essentially, that's more than our profit for last year. So
Right.
that's the world we live in. And that, unfortunately, is the Premier League world we're going to live in for several years, unless we can establish ourselves in a certain way and incrementally build upwards. So, I think we bought what we could, and we invested more this year than we have ever before.
True.
So I think at the end of the day, when we talk about what's available in January, there may be the sniff of this, that, and the other. But I think, the brief of this guy's like, here's what we bought. We brought somebody else in. We made a change in coach because we believe that a coach can get more out of this group. And I think that's going to be the brief. So
Yeah, this group, and then unbury Cantwell, because I don't know who it was, maybe Michael Bailey said that for a couple of weeks Cantwell didn't even have a locker with the first team. His locker was moved to the under 23.
Yeah,
now he has a locker.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Now he has a locker with the first team. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's promising.
Yeah,
I don't know who.
Everything I understood was they got him away from the first team. They didn't want him influencing the first team. Is how I had it put to me. If you're with the 23s, you're with the 23s. I guess was part of the thought, but I got the sense that they wanted to get him away from the first team, for better or worse.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard him. I don't know what he's like. I've heard a couple of interviews with the TNC interviews and that type of thing. I mean, you've got some pretty strong characters. Gibson, Hanley. These aren't shrinking violets. So, as I say, I'm trying to kind of compute the idea that he's such a bad influence, or he's so poisonous we're getting him away from the team. But clearly something's happening there. Something's going on. You're not stuck in the 23s for a reason. I think he was injured for a while, but he's been away from the first team too long. And I think we all know what he's capable of. And who knows? I don't know. It's a bit of a puzzle. And I just hope that it rectifies itself, because I do think we miss him. I think there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned him both times I was on, and I mean, my perception of him is that he's a good guy. He's a local guy. He's an academy product. He doesn't seem like a jerk at all. He seems like a very good teammate. Really, but there's nothing about his demeanor that says, this guy's really a jerk. No wonder he's being banished. There's nothing. That's why it's so puzzling. He just seems like, a super guy. Even I've seen some of him. He's posted some stuff on social media where he's done, community events this whole time. If you're a jerk, you're not willingly going out and, meeting with, groups of 9-year-olds playing football in places. You're just not doing that.
And he's a local guy. He knows that that's not the Norwich way to be that way anyway. And don't get me wrong. There's speculation here. I mean, certainly. But why remove him? Unless, there was. I mean, if it's just the out. I mean, was it a formation thing where he just didn't have a role? With the way Farke was changing the formations, and he's went. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think it's
Was it preemptive because he was, maybe having these outs with Farke? I don't know.
Yeah, I think he comes across. I think he comes across as being a bit of a complex personality. But I think he has got that kind of. There's that kind of community spirit side of him, but he gives a slight sense of that, and I think that. I think there's clearly been a personality clash there. It's interesting is that he's he comes from a sporty family, right? His sister plays, or did used to play for Cambridge United Women. I mean, she's she's a good player.
Right.
There's the other brother on Twitter, I think, describes himself as being the third best footballer in the family. So it's interesting. He comes from that sporting background, so you think that would also stand him instead. So it could be anything, but it feels to me like if you're having your locker removed from the first team, there's something going on there. There's no getting away from it. So we'll see what. I mean, that's Nelson Oliveira. That's Nelson Oliveira territory. So
Well, Oliveira did the look at me, I'm going to take off my shirt and yell at you. It's like
he was done. He was done. His goose was cooked from the minute he did that. So
I was like, okay, dude, not the smartest thing to do.
Read the room, buddy.
Yeah, I haven't seen Cantwell do any of that sort of thing. And
but
he's really given the maximum effort out there and really hustling.
Well, remember was it last year? It was last year, right? Where that was the only time I'd ever heard Farke say anything really negative, and that was when he had said it was last year. It was front end of last year, and he was saying they were talking when it was again where he was out of the team. And he was saying, I was saying to him, how can someone who's provided one assist in 30 games or scored one goal in 40 games, how can someone like this say that they deserve to be in the team? And I think that was really you rarely ever saw Farke do that in interviews, but he did it there. And then of course since then we've had Unulis and we've had a couple other times when he's probably been a little less complimentary, but otherwise it was that. So I don't know. I think they've traded blows, and I mean his Instagram things, that he put up the other day that said we didn't always see eye to eye. I think anyway. I mean he gave praise and to Farke, which he didn't need to do, but he did, but then he did say they didn't see eye to eye. So anyway. I don't know what, but if he's fit and he's ready, let's bring him back because Lord only knows we're going to need that.
One thing Farke really did well is plead the youth. I mean, he really developed. Some of. I mean, come on. When they won the championship, they had Lewis, Godfrey, and Aarons on the back line.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like younger than some of Mark's kids he's coaching.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you still got seasoned Fleet Street journalists are actually taking the trouble to write tweets that say things like he was naive and wasn't able to manage young talent. I mean, it's just
nah.
Why do you bother? I mean, we know why you bother, of course, but it's just these editorial comments that are just utterly lacking in any foundation. It kills me every time.
I mean, are these guys related to Skip Bayless? I don't get it. I mean,
oh God.
Well, but I mean.
I knew I'd get you with that one.
Skip, oh God. I mean, he's on Fox, right?
He was. Is that show still even on?
Yeah, that's just goes without saying.
But yeah.
Although didn't Fox just win all the European? Didn't they just get the contract for all the European?
Fox got some
competitions or something like that.
I'm not sure, but I'm not. Look, I'm not going to Bayless for my opinions on anything soccer. I mean, I don't.
No, he doesn't know anything.
I don't go to him for my opinions on anything.
The talking heads guys that they have are just
there's some bad ones out there. I mean, they really are. And I have to say, I mean, certainly over here. There are a couple where you do think you're getting away with this here, really. I mean, it's just you're drawing a wage and you're getting away with it. I can remember there was one guy in the Toronto Star over here with two that went to the World Cup in 2006, and every second article was about the bratwursts they wanted to have. And it's like, are you going to cover a game at any point during this tournament? It was extraordinary. It's like you clearly don't know what you're talking about because you spent off we went to Berlin yesterday. It was great. We went to the wall, went to the soft plats. It was great. And it went on. And every time there are games going on here, guys. You might want to cover some of those. And it's just like you're drawing a wage on this.
Yeah, who do I follow? Bruce Arthur. I know he's in Toronto, I think. Journalist on Twitter. I follow him.
Yeah.
he's the only one that I'm not sure.
There are definitely some good ones, but
I'm sure. I don't know how I started following him, but
there's some grim ones too. Just grim. It's like
one of the only guys that I follow up there.
Anyway,
so we're at minute 50 here.
Yeah.
So what else? Who else has impressed you out there and not impressed you with their play?
Well, Carl kept us in that game.
Yeah.
Massively.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This week. Holy moly. I thought one of those went off his face, his chest, but
right.
But at first glance, I'm like, "Holy crap! Did he just take one in the snout?" No, but that's just a position. Sometimes, sometimes you luck into that. Sometimes you're doing what you need to be doing. So, I really like Timmy. I mean, I think he's probably been responsible for a few here and there.
True,
but when you're minus 26 or whatever we are on the season, he's not all of it. He's not all of it. He's certainly not.
Right. If you look,
he doesn't have the confidence. He didn't have the confidence of what was in front of him, and it's very often the way. I thought Saturday was marked by the fact that he was able to put in that performance because I think he did feel a bit more solid with who he had. Sure. And I'm sort of looking at things. I think save for the goal because where he was out of position, Aarons has played better on Saturday than he has for many a week. So it was nice to see him. Omobama, Daly, and Gibson I really liked. Williams, I'm still not convinced by, but again, right footer on the left side of the park. You can see he always seems to have problems cutting back, so not so sure about him. Norman obviously had a good game. Dowell is looking pretty lost at sea at the moment, but again, he's not getting consistent match time, so it's hard to see that one. At least Melo, I thought was better than he's been, but I'm not overawed by it. But I think, but nice to see Rashidska come back. It was Rashidska, Omobama, Daly, Norman, Krul had good games. Mm-hmm. Gibson, I thought, captaincy suited him, and I thought he played a good game, and you can tell he's looking for a role like that. Mm-hmm. So those are the guys I think that were there. At least Melu, don't know, Dowell, little worried about him. Williams, still think Unuelis is better on that side of the park than he is, if I'm honest. And good to see Aaron start to get in there. I think Saturday was marked by the fact that the passing was better, the anticipation was better from the passing. There was less, certainly in the first half, tragic concession of possession as we've seen in so many weeks. We saw that, and we saw a team metaphorically that was facing the right way. Okay, we can get Joy down the flanks here. We can do that. Yeah, okay, and the more we started to get the ball, in the middle, the more the right people were trying to be on the end of the distribution, which we hadn't seen in the past few weeks. I actually quite like seeing Pookie up front again on his own, although I liked the two before, but I realized I think with the right distribution and the right composition in midfield, it feels like what up front works better. So formation I enjoyed, but leading lights I think Omobama, Daly for sure, Rashidska and Norman for me for sure. Nice to see Aaron's play a wee bit better again, and obviously to your point, the reason why we have 3 points today is because of Timmy Krul. There's no doubt about that.
Oh yeah, Timmy Krul. You mentioned the formation. In Josh Sargent and Mark, you're working on possibly getting something.
Actually, I think that was Jeff that was working on.
Oh, that was Jeff
talking to his dad. I mean, I've got somebody else I can work an angle on, but that's he's under 23.
Yeah.
So
for those of you listening, and if you're listening, of course you're that's a dumb thing to say. So. Yeah, for those of you listening, of course you're listening.
For those of you who haven't hit the stop button on the
stop button, Jeff Hewick apparently is in contact with Josh Sargent's father, and we possibly might arrange for some sort of a Q&A with Josh. It might not be a live thing. It might be submit questions and get answers or something, but that's promising. That might.
Well, so far as I know, his dad's still in the group.
Okay.
Because his dad came into the group pretty early on after the signing. So, I mean, it was within that first week, I think.
But what I was going to say, the way he plays reminds me a little bit of how Harry Kane plays when Kane isn't like your French striker. Kane, when he plays really well, he's got Son that he does really well with, and Lucas or something like that. We don't have that type of a quick, creative player in Pookie. Pookie's creative. He's not quick. He's not going to be making these runs. With him and Buendia worked well together.
Mhm.
But Sargent needs somebody who is, a combination of, Buendia, someone who's very pacey and very creative, and that might work, for him partnering up front. But just I saw like, hey, he does some of the stuff that Kane does. I was impressed with his energy, his tracking back, and stuff like that. So there's definitely something there. It's definitely a good player there. Is pairing him up with Pookie the best? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who he paired up with when he was with Bremen, right? Werder Bremen.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't see any highlights with who he's paired with.
I think what you're going to see is, I think, based on what we've seen so far, I think he's, and this is not intended to be disparaging because he really isn't. It's funny. I was talking to my brother about this. My brother said this. He'd be cracking for the championship. Like he really would be, and I think we saw that at Bournemouth. I actually think whoever we get in, we're going to see probably slightly less of Pookie. I don't think it's realistic to expect Pookie to run himself into the ground every single week.
Yeah,
and I do think that we're going to like that. That I think was also a bit of a function that you look at it. Look at this guy, the international football that he's playing. What's expected of him, the international level, and then to see him run himself into the ground, which Pookie does. But to Mark's point earlier on, you used to see him cover every blade of grass practically in the championship. You just can't do this and get the joy out of centre backs that you're looking to get in this league. So I think you're going to see more of Sargent as the season goes on. I think there'll be times where he'll be the lone guy up front, and I think there'll be more horses for courses. I think some of the teams, particularly some of the teams where either centre backs are more immobile or the slightly shorter, you're going to see more of him. And I think that'll be good for him because I think it'll help him get the measure. I think there's definitely something there. He's a great prospect, but he needs more game time and he needs to be the right type of opponent.
Right.
So,
Agreed. All right. So to wrap up, you guys think it's going to be Knutson?
I think it's pretty safe money at this point.
I would. Yeah,
we could be totally wrong. It could be somebody that has been completely under the radar. I mean, Farke was a surprise until he wasn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting here. I'm 4,800 miles away, almost to the mile. So what do I know?
Yeah, I mean, I asked our friend Robin Sainty. David, do you know Robin?
Well, yeah, I'm familiar with his work for sure. Yeah, he's been
so
for a long time.
I said, Robin, do you have a clue? He's like, I have not a clue.
No.
He basically didn't say, hey, from what I've heard. No, he said, I don't have a clue.
No.
No.
All we got's what's in the echo chamber at this point.
Right.
Yeah. And we're all seeing the same information.
That's it. And I think, just going on that, like I know who I'd be picking, but as you say, we could be hearing a completely different name no one's thought of, not even been close, and that's the name we could be saying on Friday. Who knows?
I like Sky Sports. It's like, oh, they're talking to, what was it? Lampard, Hasenhüttl, and God, who was the other one that they threw in?
Hasenhüttl.
It was, and was it Dean Smith or possibly?
Yeah, maybe that one was bounced around, and he's still sitting pretty high.
And then I was like, that's not even who they're talking to.
No, I mean it's they haven't a clue.
And the fun thing for me, when I think of Dean Smith, I think of the North Carolina basketball coach.
That's where I keep going to. That's where my brain goes.
Well, the first time I was like, well, you mean the same name as the North Carolina? Okay, I mean it's
Well, that's what I used to.
Common name.
I used to sit there and talk about Russell Martin, and people used to say, "Russell Martin, you mean a catcher for the Blue Jays?" Why would
I would say it all the time.
That all the time.
Yeah, Russell Martin.
Russell
like if you
Martin,
played
why would he be there?
like,
Yeah.
oh, it's the bad Russell Martin. Oh, so the baseball player is always the bad Russell Martin, especially when it's playing against the Orioles. The good Russell Martin, was now managing Swansea. I was like, oh yeah, it's the bad Russell Martin. X, Y, and Z. He wasn't a bad player. I was just like, oh, it's the bad one, because yeah. But that's one of those like, huh? What are you talking about? There's a player in England with the same name that I like better, and X, Y, and Z.
And I gotta wonder too sometimes how much gamesmanship's going on with these out of work managers where their agents are going, hey, media guy.
Of course. Oh yeah.
I mean, good Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what drives so much
Yeah.
of this crap anyway, I think. And
actually there was a great, and again, I've mentioned him once already, but if you get to look at if you haven't already, it's worth doing just for the hell of it. The Gary Neville, Roy Keane interview where he's walking his dog in the Cheshire, like in Hale Barnes or somewhere in Cheshire, whatever, and they're talking about a whole bunch of things. It's about 50 minutes long. But there was something Roy Keane said at the end that was very interesting. He said, the one thing I don't understand is, particularly in England or particularly in Britain, he said I had a couple of chances. He had one chance in Ipswich, didn't do so well. Sunderland did okay. He said, but there are some of these guys get loads of chances and fail systematically and fail often. And it's exactly what you said. It's whether you can kind of play the game, whether you can sort of put yourself out there and almost create a mystique for yourself that you frankly don't deserve. And there's so many of them that are in that category. I mean, Steve Bruce, God bless him, was one of those, right? It's just this, it's like, how many times do you want to have a you had some success, but it's been a while, right? And yet, never ever any problem getting a gig. And so it goes, right?
Yeah. It's not an English football phenomenon. I mean, we saw this in the NFL,
right?
Really bad for a while, and we still kind of have that going on in the NFL. Yeah. I think sports cycle, and sometimes that generation of new, field generals. It takes a little while to develop sometimes, and then all of a sudden you get somebody that. He's 38 years old and he's just won a championship, and he's barely done with his playing career or whatever, and he's moved up the ladder. You see it in football, certainly. You see it in baseball sometimes. But it's the
tightest circuit. The tightest circuit though has to be Italian football managers. That is got to be the most incestuous market that there ever has been. Every single one of them has been the national coach, and every single one of them has been and of course they don't stop. They don't actually fire them, right? This is the point. They fire them and they stay on the payroll. They basically, and then they run the contract out. So, you get, Allegri, Lippi, all of these guys, Capello, all managed all of the teams at the top. It's insane. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a merry-go-round, or it's a bingo machine of, okay, well, your manager this year is,
it's your turn,
N37,
no, it's your turn to manage the national team now, I'm afraid. Like, you will have to get you out of the club rotation for a bit, but then you can come back, and have your third go at managing Sampdoria. It's fun times. Anyway, but there you go. We'll see what we'll see.
Yeah, we need to wrap this up.
Yep.
All right, so I'm not planning on doing another one, but we might, depending on who the coach is and what happens.
No reason to do one until we know something.
Right.
That's right.
And we don't know anything, as we've just proven in the last hour of discussion. So
yeah, we don't know.
But it's nice to confirm that sometimes by hashing it out, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a decompression for me more than anything.
Exactly.
Trying to stay off of social media with all of this.
Yeah. It gets a little much after a while.
It does, but seeing some of the stories and and I said Michael Bailey's stories. Oh, okay, this is good. I mean, he's always
right.
Been pretty. I mean, they're all very solid. Everyone writes the stuff. The main guys who are out there that we all follow are all very good.
Yeah, I do have to say I think I talked about this even. I forget which time I was on with Rob and Chris. It was actually when I was just talking when I was in the program last year about what I did to stick around, and when we didn't have games and what was going on. It was like, well, we have really good journalists for Norwich City, for the club that we have. I think it's really good, and it's not clickbaity crap like the big clubs. The big clubs where you've got such a market for anybody, or it's just crap. You're better off having those small town, not don't read that the wrong way. The small town media guys that can get a little closer, get a little more knowledge, and are tied in. I think it's so much better than the national pap that you see with
the broadsheet stuff is dire. The broadsheet stuff is as bad as it's ever been. It's getting progressively worse. The very idea that people even make a differentiation now between what's in the tabloids and what's in the broadsheets in terms of that, it's appalling. I'd far rather have, and frankly, the supposedly non-biased commentary of the major networks is faintly embarrassing of the lack of preparation they actually do. So I would far rather have a decent, well-prepared but biased commentator like Chris Gorham any day of the week and twice on Sunday than deal with any of that. Yeah. And likewise, you got a lot of journalists around who, whether it's Michael Bailey, Paddy Davitt, and those guys, and the way they steward some of the younger guys, would far rather have that. I really would.
Yeah. Speaking of commentary, we had our dear friend Evan Akoko on the call again.
Love Evan Akoko.
CSN. Yeah. And for the very first time, I didn't feel like he was just hammering all the time. He should have done better there.
Does he feel like he has to overcompensate?
He does. I think he does, because there are times when you can actually hear him that he actually kind of wants us to win. But I think he does. Like Evan Akoko, I think is a pretty smart guy. And I don't, when you listen to him to other games, you want to listen to him. Whereas, Jim Beglin, I just want to bash my head against the wall. It's like, Jim, you were a great player. You broke your leg. I feel very bad for you. You could have been one of the absolute all-time greats that the British football has ever seen. You literally make the nails down a blackball commentary-wise. Don't feel that about Evan Akoko. I think you're right. I think he overcompensates. Not that I'm biased or anything against Jim Beglin, but oh my God, stop now, Jim.
Like when Pookie had that shot, I thought it was going to be a goal. He was like, he dragged his foot a little bit, and that was it. He stopped.
I think
he didn't just hammer on him.
Strikers hammer on strikers, or they. I mean, Gary Birtles was always like, a striker could never do any wrong. Gary Birtles, striker never do any wrong. But I think Evan Akoko is in the kind of the strikers unit, but I think he does. He's pretty overcritical of strikers. But in general. Yeah, in general, I must confess I don't mind Evan.
Very critical. I'm trying to think, who was it? Somebody this weekend scored a goal on a header off the back of their head. They were jumping up and they weren't facing the goal, and the ball glanced off the back of their head and they headed it in. I was like, whoa! Maybe in the Premier League. I've never seen that before, But Evan Akoko would probably like, oh, well, he could have done better. He should, it's like, come on.
Well, Evan Akoko, of course, was the guy that, in the famous Man City game, I think it was Evan Akoko, was. Wayne Rooney does his overhead kick. Ball comes in from the right, overhead kick, straight into the top corner, and Evan Akoko says it was a shinner. It actually was a shinner, but do you say that? Like, I mean, here's this thing. This guy is just, it's like ballet. The ball goes in, but it's like, hit his shin.
So what? So what?
But to be fair, it did.
So what?
Back of the net's a back of the net.
Back of the net's a back of the net, and it looked pretty. It was like something out. It was like a FIFA 2021 goal, right? But it's a bit of a shinner, that one though. When you look at it, it was a bit of a shinner, wasn't it? It's like, okay, Evan, but he is. Hey, so what? City legend, 4 goals against Everton. Come on, he can do no wrong.
So what? Yeah, it doesn't matter. All right, so I would say I thought he was less critical this time. So, I think, was it the Chelsea match or whatever? Yeah, they were getting hammered. I turned off the volume and made sure I had closed captioning. I just couldn't take it.
Yeah.
And then I didn't watch the second half. I was like, okay, I have stuff I have to do. And my daughter's like, Dad, where were you? Don't we need to do this? Oh, I already did it. It says, what? It says, well, that's what you get when you sleep at 12 o'clock noon.
Yeah, and I didn't need it either. Part of me was glad it was an early game because at least we get it out of the way.
Yeah, it was just
at the start of the day, and I missed, admittedly, most of the first half just because I was exhausted from night before with football.
Well, I think that was basically that sealed the nail that sealed the coffin.
I think
was
so.
That. Yeah, it was that. And there's like, okay,
so.
What are we gonna do? Let's see what's happening.
No, there's no coming back from that, and that was it. So
yeah, that was embarrassing. The only one that's more embarrassing was when they lost 7-1 to Man City, when the player of the game was Ruddy, which was ridiculous. I remember watching it. I think that could have been double digits.
Yeah,
it was just it was brutal. All right. Well, thanks for everybody for listening. Hopefully next time you listen, we will have a new coach, new manager, whatever that David says. Coach is the appropriate word, and then we'll all be excited, and we'll see where we go. And we also got the joy of seeing Norwich win and not be last for several hours. The Newcastle had to, get a point. Newcastle's still winless, though.
Yep. All right.
They're still winless.
Well, we'll see what happens. New horizons.
Absolutely. All right, then, gents.
All right. Thank you very much, David.
All the very best.
All right.
See you later.
Yep.
Thank you for having us again.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. That's what fun.
Bye.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll end broadcast.